Alright, so now we're going to be actually using that molar mass that we just learned how to calculate in our problems. So before we jump into these problems, let's kind of talk about how we can use our molar mass. So remember that AMU stands for grams per mole. So we can make these ratios, just like we did with the mole ratios, we can make these fractions or ratios that have grams and moles that are comparing the two of them. So for example, this is one of nitrogen. So for nitrogen, we see that it has 14 grams per 1 mole. Remember, we find this 14 on our periodic table for nitrogen. So you can set up a fraction for nitrogen that looks like this, with 14 grams on top and 1 mole on the bottom. You also could set up a different fraction for nitrogen that looked kind of like this, where you have 1 mole, for every 1 mole of nitrogen, you have 14.01 grams of nitrogen. Alright, so you can write the fractions either way, like we did when we were doing mole to mole conversions before. You can use either one of these fractions as we go on the rest of these problems. Alright, so I'm going to do 2 different practice problems. If this isn't enough for you, send me an email and I can make some more videos that has more practice problems. I just want to keep it as short as possible for you guys so you can get all the information and have a lot of time to work on your homework. Alright, so let's look at this first problem. So it's asking how many grams are in 5 moles of O2. So the first thing we need to see is that it gives us 5 moles of O2. So that is going to be our starting point, is going to be 5 moles of O2. Alright, now just like before when we were doing mole to mole conversions, we're going to multiply by some sort of ratio. And in the end, we are trying to find the grams of oxygen. That's our ending point. So we want to make a ratio that on the bottom will give us something that has moles of O2 in it, because we want those units to cancel out, and on the top will give us grams of oxygen so that we can get our answer in the end that we want. So on the bottom, let's put our moles of O2 on the bottom of this. So remember, we're going to be kind of writing ratios that look kind of like these ones up in this corner. So instead of saying 1 mole of N, we're going to say 1 mole of O2 for our bottom part. So in 1 mole of O2, now we need to figure out how many grams are in 1 mole of O2. So this is where we have to calculate our molar mass for O2. So we know oxygen is 16. There's 2 of them, so times by 2. So that's going to be 32 grams. So for 1 mole of O2, it's 32 grams of O2. Now if we do our math and we do our canceling out, we see these moles cancel out top and bottom. And so our unit is grams of O2 that we're left with, which is lucky for us because that's what we want. And now we just do some math and we multiply across. So remember, just use your calculator. You don't need to do it in your head. But when you do this, we're going to get 160 grams of oxygen. Alright, so that's one type of problem that I could give you. This one, we're taking moles and we have to go to grams. This next problem down here, you're giving grams and we have to go back to moles. So let's try to set this one up. So I'm going to start with 62 grams of NaCl because that is what my problem gave me right here. You look for your number, you know that's your starting point. Now we're trying to get to moles, so we need to figure out what ratio we want to use, that we can put something on the bottom that will cancel with our grams of NaCl and something on the top that will leave us with moles of NaCl. So on our bottom, let's figure out the grams of NaCl. So this is where we have to figure out our molar mass. So Na and Cl. Let's see. Let's grab the periodic table. We see Na is about 22.99 and Cl is 35.45. Alright, so you add those both up. We're going to round it to 58.44. Alright, so we're going to use that as our grams of NaCl. And so in every gram, or in every mole, 1 mole of NaCl, we have 58.44 grams. So that's how we figure out that fraction, is we have to figure out our molar mass, and that's it for each mole. 1 mole of NaCl is that many grams. So now we're going to do the rest of our working out this problem, the rest of our math. So we're going to cancel out our grams because they're on top and bottom. So we're just left with this mole of NaCl as our unit. And now if we do our math and figure it out, it's going to be 1.07 moles of NaCl. Remember, for these, you will be multiplying the top numbers and dividing the bottom by the bottom, okay? So this one we did 62, we times it by 1, got 62, we divided it by 58.44, and we got 1.07 moles of NaCl. Alright, so hopefully on your homework, when you get to this section, you can follow this video, you can understand what to do. If not, again, let me know and we can do some more practice problems, alright?